Every little thing you think that you need. Every little thing you think that you need. Every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it.
Why is he looking at us so aggressively while he does that?
I hope Sean keeps this part in the intro.
Oh my God.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Minimalist Podcast, where we discuss what it means to live a meaningful life with less. My name is Joshua Fields Milburn.
And I am Ryan Nicodemus, and together we are the Minimalists. We are back, baby.
Yeah. Well, we didn't really go anywhere, but we're back in studio, and this is episode 113. Today we're going to talk about the new year. So, Ryan, how was your Christmas?
It was amazing. You know why?
Why?
Because I spent it with the people that matter the most. I'm sorry you weren't there.
We're actually recording this before Christmas. I'm also spending my Christmas with the people that matter the most. I'm actually going to be alone this Christmas.
Oh, dude, that's like the perfect Christmas gift for you.
It really is. Like we totally. Actually, right after this, I have to take Bex and Ella to the airport. They're heading out. Ella's doing like 3 Christmases this year, so we had ours in California.
Oh, wow.
She's doing Minnesota, and then she's gonna be back in Montana with her father.
You just had Christmas while they were in town.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So like we just.
Did you guys do a tree and stuff?
No, we did a tree, but like we didn't do physical gifts for her. We did experiential gifts. So,
awesome.
So there wasn't like the requisite unwrapping of unnecessary items.
You know, it's funny. I was gonna save this for the recommended value section.
I think he means added value, but we're rusty. Wewe're back in studio.
Oh, added value.
By in studio, we mean we're in our friend Matt Diavella's kitchen.
Yes.
Shout out to Matt Diavella.
Matt's over in the corner right now eating lasagna.
He's so Italian.
No, yeah. For that, I was gonna say with the added value, I had a couple things, so I'll just say this right now. You the other day, you sent me a text and you were like, "Hey, we're gonna go look at Christmas lights. Do you want to go?" So Mariah and I went with you and Bex and Ella to go look at Christmas lights. I don't know why. Like that is something I used to do all the time. And I haven't really gone out of my way to do that. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you're
for gifting me that experience.
Well, I think you used the key phrase there, gone out of my way. I mean, it is like truly out of the way, like literally geographically. We went over to Beverly Hills because they have the most posh lights. And so we drove over to Beverly Hills, found a parking space at a meter, and then walked around and just checked out the lights and didn't buy anything on Rodeo Drive. But we still got to enjoy the experience of taking a look at the lights.
That's the first time I've ever been on Rodeo Drive.
Yeah.
My God. I feel like I lost $10,000 just walking down that street.
Well, that's how much it was to park at the meter.
Just for the meter.
It was $10,000 an hour. Wow. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the new year, and we are back in studio. We're going to be back in studio a lot more. As you know, we're building a new podcast and film studio. In the meantime, we'll be set up in Matt's kitchen, hopefully for as long as he'll let us do this. By the way, check out his podcast. You've heard him on our podcast before. It's called The Ground Up Show. All right, Ryan, this is the time of year that people reset, they reassess, and I'm talking about the new year. So this comes out on New Year's Day, 2018. And people start to refocus. So we've got some questions that people are asking us, and we've got some questions from social media as well. Do you want to go ahead and jump in?
Let's do it, man. Let's get into these voicemails.
All right. Well, our first voicemail is from Greta in what I would say Melbourne, Australia. Some people might say Melbourne. That's how they pronounce my name sometimes. But I know in Australia, it's Melbourne. Melbourne, Australia. Although in Scotland, that's how they pronounce my last name, too.
Melbourne?
Yeah.
That's
Joshua funny. Fields, Melbourne.
Now, Josh, you correct me if I'm wrong.
I usually do.
The way that we pronounce things, we should pronounce them in the vernacular like using the vernacular of the country we're from, correct? So, like, we would say Melbourne.
Right.
So, is that how we should say? Because like, I know, like, I'll say Lao. Like, hey, I went to Lao. And people are like, oh, Laos.
Right.
And in the States,
right,
we say Laos.
Right.
So, like, I will say Laos, like, just to not confuse people or what. I don't know.
If I had to be,
am I thinking about this too much?
No, if I had to be prescriptive about it, you would use the dialect from which you are accustomed and which you're in right now, which would be standard American English, also known as standard written English in a lot of textbooks. But that said, I'm not that prescriptive, and I think you could be a descriptivist about this, and you can say tomato. You could say, hey, Josh, can you get me a tomato?
Well, you know what's funny is people, they say tomato, but I don't, who says tomato?
British people and Australian people in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely
I think they
right.
say tomato.
I see.
All right.
Right.
Greta from Tomato, Australia.
I wanted to ask the question about your day-to-day planning and organizing. I feel like I am the type of person that loves to be organized, yet doesn't stay organized. So if you guys have any comments or suggestions on like whether you use online daily planners or organizers or physical ones, I'd love to have some help.
Now, Ryan, I'm looking at you and your Franklin planner and all of its tabs.
Dude, I'm just thinking I'm the worst person to ask this question to.
It's funny. I was thinking that you're also the worst person to ask about this question.
Maybe I'm also the best person to ask because I'm so bad.
Ryan, what shouldn't she? Tell her what you do, and that'll explain what she shouldn't do.
Tell Greta what she should not do. First off, dude, I am so pumped to go to Australia. It's going to be so much fun. Greta, we are excited to go to Melbourne, Australia also. Yeah. Did I say it right?
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. Man, how to plan? Well, I was actually having this conversation yesterday with a mentee. Here's what I would say first and foremost. Step number 1, Greta, you have to figure out what is it that you want to accomplish each day. That is first and foremost. So during the week, Monday through Friday, you've probably got work. Great. So what is your schedule, or what do you need to accomplish each day, Monday through Friday? Saturday and Sunday might look a little bit different. What do you want to accomplish on those days? What do you think? Is that a good step number 1, Josh?
Well, I thought this was a good question because of the sort of New Year thing, and people want to it's almost like a resolution. Like I want to become more organized.
Sure.
So what you're saying there is identify your priorities. And so the New Year thing, quite often it's like, well, I have these 17 resolutions, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden they all go by the wayside because you become overwhelmed. So if you say step number 1, but then and you figure out, well, here are my 17 priorities, that's a good start, but guess what? You're probably not going to get all 17 of those important things done over the course of the day.
Absolutely, and I think that's why it's important to write these out, because we have to get clear on what we want to accomplish. And then I think from there, it's getting clear on, okay, now what are we actually able to accomplish?
Right. And so if you look at that list of 17 items, you might say, okay, what is, this is a Tim Ferriss thing, but he'll say, like, what is the one thing, if I accomplish today out of all of these 17 items, that will render the rest of these less important or unnecessary altogether, right?
Yeah.
And I find that quite often with me, if I have a to-do list, the thing that makes the to-do list easy to tackle is I'll go in there and I'll just delete stuff from it. Or what I'll do is if I'm terrified of deleting it, I have 2 lists. You could actually see it on my computer right now. There's a today list. Like, here's what I have to do today. It's on my computer. It's on my phone. I just use the little memo pad. Here's what must be done today. And then if it gets too full, I say, okay, I'm going to move that to a someday list. And that tells me it's not a real priority in my life. But, like, for example, next week, I'm not going to be with family most of the week. And so I'm going to just be with myself. I have this whole list of, here's some stuff I want to do someday. I need to reassess my term life insurance. And then I will take time to, like, go through all these boring, mundane tasks. They're not things I must do absolutely today. Although we trick ourselves, don't you think? Like, we trick ourselves into saying,
totally,
I've got to do all this stuff and I have to get it done immediately. And it's hard to prioritize when everything is an emergency.
Yeah, and we put pressure on ourselves too to do too much in a day. It's like we have this long list of stuff, and for some reason, and I know a lot of people out there feel this way, like for me, if I've got 10 things, knocking 5 of them off, it makes me feel almost inadequate. Like, oh, I can't handle all this, or I can't accomplish enough in a day, and I start to beat myself up.
Yeah, I'm not type A enough. I'm not hard charging enough, especially
right.
in the culture that we're in.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're saying there, if you have 10 items and you cross 5 of them off, you're saying no to those 5 that are less important so you can say yes to the 5 that are more important.
Absolutely.
I actually have the opposite dilemma sometimes. Sometimes I'll say, man, I've got these 5 things. Like, there's a phone call I have to make today that's on my list I've been dreading for several days. And it's been on my today list for like 3 days. And I'm like, wait a minute, it was today yesterday, so I don't have a yesterday list. And so it sort of stays on this list. And there's a phone call I'm dreading to make.
Are you calling? Is it the call to Cleo the psychic? You gotta.
Yes, it's Diana Warwick. Yeah, she knows I'm calling.
Were you worried about what the future holds?
If you're a psychic, wouldn't you be worried about the future? What the future holds?
Man, you just blew my mind.
Anyway, what I'll do sometimes, I've got these 5 things that need to get done, right?
Yeah.
But they're the more difficult things to do. And so instead, I will like pacify myself. I'll just get on YouTube and watch a video really quick because that's my crack. And then all of a sudden, it's 4 hours later. There's drool and ketchup on my shirt. I don't even know why there's ketchup on my shirt. I wasn't eating anything.
I walked in on you one time. There was drool and ketchup everywhere.
It was on the walls. And what I realized is like, man, let me reward myself with, say, a YouTube binge after I complete these 5 tasks. What I'll do, and here's the messed up part about it. That phone call that I need to make today is going to take all of 3 minutes. Maybe if it goes really well, it'll go 10 minutes. And then it's done. And even if it goes badly, like, it's out of the way. And then I can get on to drooling on myself in front of the screen. A few other things here. So she mentioned, like, she loves being organized, but she doesn't stay organized. It's like this saying with writers, the writers don't like writing, that they like having written. And what she's saying is she doesn't like organizing, she likes being organized.
Right.
And I think we all, Ryan, you don't like organizing.
Oh my God, no.
I don't like organizing.
Honestly, it feels to me like, well, not anymore because I have incorporated some things into my life that has helped me out a lot with scheduling and stuff. I'm still not perfect at it for sure, but definitely better than, what I was my 25-year-old self. But it used to feel pointless. It used to feel like a waste of time. And I don't know why, but it was like this, I don't need to be that organized. I can just wing it and fly by the seat of my pants and be just fine.
I think I know why though with
Why
you.
is that?
So here's we're joking that you're like the less organized of the two of us. That's because I'm Fort Knox when it comes to organization, right? It's not fair. Yeah, I'm the Library of Congress of my own domain.
Yes.
But that said, and that's just because I'm OCD. It's not like it's an affliction that that I'm suffering from for the last 36 years. But with you are, I think you're a healthy degree of organized, but it's not because you have that tendency to be organized. It's you've set up some of these things in place where you're like, I know what my priorities are. I know what my values are. And I know what actions I need to take. And then you also put the appropriate level of discomfort on yourself and discontent if you don't get something done. Where you're like, oh crap, I really meant to do that and it didn't get done. It was on my list. And you beat yourself up, but not so much that you like feel bad, but enough that you're like, I don't want to feel that pain again, so I might as well go ahead and complete this task because the task is easier than the pain I'm going to feel if I don't complete it.
Absolutely.
And so what I'll say is organizing is well-planned hoarding, right? And so the first thing we want to do if we're organized in our life is we want to have less to organize. Now, what does that mean? It can be less stuff to organize. The average American household has 300,000 items in it. It's really difficult to organize 300,000 items. I know, trust me, I had an ordinal system of boxes and bins and all the stuff in my basement and closets and garage and second living room and spare bedroom and the closet in the spare bedroom, which was my second closet for all the oversized shirts that I didn't wear. They were alphabetized. And I realized, like, you know what? Like, this stuff is really hard to organize because I have so much of it. So if you want to make it easier for you to organize, get rid of the stuff. Now, it might not just be stuff. It might be that you have too much stuff on your calendar. You have too much stuff on your computer. Social media occupying your time. Too much time sucks with your television that's on the wall or these other activities that you're embarking on that fill up your calendar, either literally like you've planned them or you haven't planned them at all. And so you're like, well, I've got a free couple hours. I'm not going to focus on my priorities. I'm going to focus on well, I'm not going to focus on anything really. I'm going to veg out. And there's time for that, for sure. But not if it's getting in the way of what's truly important. So if you want to organize your life, I found for me having slack in my calendar is important, having fewer things scheduled. In fact, last week, you and I canceled a bunch of interviews that we had scheduled. Like, we'll just tackle these interviews after the tour. And it was like, well, no, like I've been reprioritizing and focusing on my health. And I'm organizing my calendar in that fashion where I need that slack in my calendar so that I can focus on the things that are most important. So some practical tips there. Have a today list. Have a someday list. Ryan, you talked about having at the beginning of each day, knowing like what are the things I must accomplish today.
Right. Well, it's when I was thinking about Greta's question, I thought about like the process I would go through, and it would be very similar to like a budgeting process with my money. I mean, the same process would apply to my time. If I feel like I'm so overwhelmed, I would take the last month. What have I been doing with my time? How have I been spending it? How much time do I need? What are things I can say no to? I mean, kind of putting things into a likes, wants, needs list. I think that I think this could also help Greta. I think the number one thing for me though, and this is such a simple thing, but like my calendar, like that's my Bible. That is like I get up and I know exactly what I want to do each day, and I have that scheduled in my calendar. Even to the extent of I had to get something in the mail yesterday, and I knew I wouldn't get. It was over the weekend that I found this out, and I knew I wouldn't be able to get to it until Tuesday. So I literally in my calendar put a little entry in there. Hey Ryan, get this in the mail. So that's another thing too, Greta, is so figure out what you want to do and then put that stuff in your calendar and treat that thing as gospel. And then honestly, like the biggest part of, and this is, so easy to give advice. I need to like take this advice myself, but taking the action, taking massive action, like really, really treating that calendar as gospel and finding the leverage to act on those things that you have scheduled in there. So it's like, I was thinking about this earlier when I was thinking about Greta's question. Yesterday, the mentee I was talking to about this time scheduling, they asked me, well, how do you find the leverage to get in bed by 10 o'clock? Like, that was one specific thing. I'm like, I got to make sure that I'm in bed by 9:30 or 10 o'clock because I want to be up by 7. It takes me about an hour to fall asleep, so I try to make sure I'm in bed by no later than 10 o'clock.
Just make sure Mariah's there and like some negligee or something.
Right.
It's scheduled. No. By the way, when we walked in, I totally found out that Matt is into penguins. He has some weird fetish.
I know. I saw that Natalie walking out in her nightgown in a penguin outfit.
Did you see that? What was going on?
Apparently that's
Actually, I don't want to know what's going on.
That's her work dress code. No, apparently it's wear pajamas to work day. That was really, really funny. But no. Mariah is actually pretty good about saying, hey, maybe we should go to bed. Or, hey, Ryan, I'm going to go brush my teeth. And it's kind of like, that's my cue to get in bed. But she was asking me, what is the leverage? And you know what the leverage is I want to get up at 7 a.m. The leverage is in order for me to live a meaningful life, like I've got to be up at 7 a.m. and there are certain things that I want to do each day. And if I don't do those things, I'm not going to feel complete. So the leverage for me is simply forcing myself to do it because I know that it's going to make me feel more complete the following day.
Yeah, and I think she asked like what physical, do you use a particular planner or whatever? I think you use whatever's best for you. Sure. I mean, if you I was joking about you don't have a Franklin planner in front of you, obviously.
No, of course not.
I have a notebook. I mean, I use this notebook for notes, but it looks like a crazy person's. I mean, if I ever like fall off a roof or something, and people find this, they're gonna just like, I can't.
You'll be like, what is this?
I need some sort of Rosetta Stone to read this. But my calendar, I use Google Calendar, and Ryan and I, we have a shared calendar for our work stuff with the Minimalists.
That is huge. If you have like for me and Mariah.
Yeah.
So for anyone out there as a partner and you guys, are having trouble with scheduling issues, just having a shared calendar like that for me and Mariah is huge, and the same thing for us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it allows me to see, okay, before I even ask Ryan if he's available at this time, I can check his calendar and then I can ask him if I don't see anything on the calendar. I'm obviously not just going to schedule something for Ryan. Hey Ryan, I've scheduled to wash my car at 3:30 today. It's not going to happen. But use whatever works best for you. And if you don't know what works best for you, try some different stuff out. And figure and keep the stuff that adds value. Let go of the tools that aren't adding value.
There's one thing I got to throw out here. For anyone out there who is who has trouble scheduling with clients. So for me with mentoring, Josh, you know how much hassle I had when I was trying to email back and forth scheduling times. Yeah. And it was I was happy to have the hassle, but it was like, okay, here are some dates. No, I'm not available those dates. How about these dates? No, I'm not available those dates. How about, and we were going back and forth. And then Josh, you actually showed me the tool, Schedule Once.
Right.
And this is basically a tool that I use now when I have someone sign up for a mentoring session. I send them a link, they click on the link, and they have access to my calendar, and they can see exactly when I'm available. So this may not help you, Greta, but I'm sure there's someone out there who has who has clients that they need to schedule time with, and maybe they're having a hassle like I was. Schedule Once. I probably should have saved that for the added value too, but this seemed like an appropriate time.
No, that's good. And Greta, by the way, since you're in Melbourne, we'd love to give you a couple tickets to our second Melbourne event. The first one sold out really quickly. We're doing 7 cities in Australia and New Zealand this year. We're going to be in Perth and Brisbane and Sydney and Adelaide and Melbourne twice, and then we're going over to Auckland as well. So a bunch of cities over there, lessisnow.com, or just go to theminimalists.com. You can find all of our tour dates there. But I'm not selling you anything, Greta. We'll give you a couple tickets. We'll have Sean reach out to you and get you some tickets while there are still a few remaining for that event. All right, our next question is from Ryan, not the Ryan in front of me, but a Ryan on the phone in Connecticut.
From the age of 15 to about 21, I became quite the workaholic because I was a very poor young kid, and I said, no, I'm just going to keep working, work until I'm not broke anymore. And then waking up as a 21-year-old, I'm 21 now, I have about $50,000 in the bank. I have no debt, but the negative side is I almost forgot what it's like to be able to not be a workaholic, to not be at work constantly, because I've been doing it for so many years, over 25% of my life. So how do I get away from being such a workaholic and getting back into finding the things that I love? I know a few things that I definitely couldn't do without on a day-to-day basis. I love going running, hiking. I love craft beers with my dad. But anything over about 48 hours of not working, I feel like that tick to go back to work.
Josh, it's pretty simple, man. He's got 50 grand in the bank. He should go buy a Corvette.
I mean, I don't think will that pay? That's a good down payment.
No. I think you can actually. I think a Corvette is exactly like it's right at $50,000.
If not, you can probably get the previous year's model.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then
all right, next question.
Money. All right. No, man.
Ryan, don't go do that.
Yeah, please don't. Actually, congratulations. You have a really good problem on your hands.
21 years old.
He's 21 years old. So here's what he has. He has no debt. Right?
Wow.
Congratulations. You have $50,000 in the bank as a really bulked up emergency fund. I assume you're also saving for retirement. Bravo. But you do have, just because you have a good problem doesn't mean that it's not a problem. You have a great problem here. And here's the first thing that I'll say. First I want to say is, let's talk. We talked about what you do have. You have a great work ethic. You have $50,000 in the bank. You have no debt. But you're also
great discipline.
Yeah. But let's talk about what you don't have. You don't have a lot of time. You are time poor right now because you're a workaholic, and you also have few responsibilities, which is a good thing. So you don't have. It doesn't sound to me like you have a wife and kids. It doesn't sound to me like you have a bunch of people who are you're responsible for. You're probably not leading thousands of people, and so you don't have that burden on your shoulders. And so this sort of obstacle is a self-built obstacle, right? This isn't some obstacle that society or someone else has put in front of him. Although, here's the weird thing. We have this duality with work. We, in American culture in particular, but Western culture in general, we often we praise people who are the workaholics. You work. Like you.
That's what it was like in our culture, man.
For sure.
I mean, like like you and I were always trying to be like the first one in, the last one out.
Yeah. But if I flip that on its head for a second, think about this, Ryan. We also demonize work at the same time. So it's like this weird dichotomy because, well, what he's saying is, I really work too much. And maybe that's true, but we don't hear people say, I just spend too much time with my family. But it's true. There are some people who probably spend too much time with their family, and it actually decreases the quality of the time. And I would argue that the same thing with your work. Ryan, if you and I were to work 100 hours a week, every single week, do nothing but work, podcasting and live streaming and blogging, and the quality of what we were doing, we'd get out a lot of content. We'd be like the paragon of content generation. But we wouldn't be doing anything. Well, we would. The ratio of meaningful content, meaningful creations within that content would be so low that we'd want to avoid that. And so here's what I'll say: is the problem isn't work necessarily, right? I think people get great meaning from their work. A lot of people do, at least. And in fact, so maybe the problem is not finding meaning in what you're doing, right? And so the other problem that I see in my own life, and so I'll project this onto Ryan from Connecticut here, is you like working a lot because it's the easiest thing to be in control of.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about Ryan, you're a lot more balanced than I am for sure. But so yesterday we spent the day in Santa Monica. We were like at the fair doing Christmassy stuff, and we were on like the Ferris wheel, and Ella's on the roller coaster, and it was 56 degrees, but she wanted to get in the ocean.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And anyway, so
kids have like no.
No.
They have like concept. No pain receptors, no concept of what cold is.
Right. And so we're out there, and I realized that while we're out there, like, man, this is, I don't have control of the situation, like, because Ella is a 4-year-old, and you tell her to do something, unless I were to, physically force her to do something. Right. I couldn't get her to eat the snack that she was crying about 5 minutes ago. I'm hungry, and we go buy an overpriced Kind bar at some little shop there, and then she refuses to eat it. It's not the kind that I want. And I don't have control over that, right? Like, I want to. I don't just eat the damn Kind bar. Like, what's your deal? You just asked for this. And so, like, it's easier for me to just be like, okay, put my hands up and say, I'm going to get back to work, get my computer screen in front of me.
Right.
I'm fully in control of that. But my point is, sometimes the more meaningful experiences, especially in retrospect, are the experiences we don't have full control over. It's the collaboration, it's the interaction, it's the conversations, and some of that can come through the medium of work, of vocation, but some of it has to come from outside of the work as well. And one other thing you don't have, Ryan from Connecticut, you don't have time to go running or hiking or have craft beers with your dad, and it sounds to me like you need more balance. And so Ryan is the balanced half of the duo. What do you think?
Well, when I heard Ryan's question, what I heard him saying, or heard him asking, was what do I do now that I have mastered the work that I put in front of me? So, what happened is Ryan set out this goal to be debt free, to have a decent savings, and to do that he had to work a lot.
Sure.
And he might have even have found, I know for me, I certainly did when I first started, managing retail stores, there was way more joy than there was pain with it, because it was new, it was exciting, I was learning something new. And I think a lot of people, they will have that when they start a new job. Once we do it for 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, week in and week out, it becomes routine, and we become a master at that particular task.
Right.
And the problem with mastering something, it's great because we have learned this skill or been able learned how to operate in a certain environment, but then our brain wants to master something else.
For sure. I mean, I think about our own work. When we started the minimalists.com 7 years ago, it was blogging, and that was it.
Yeah.
And while I can't say that we fully mastered it, like we got to a point where it felt like we were within that realm of mastery.
Well, and when I say mastering, it's to each person's individual skill set, right?
Right.
So for our skill set, I feel like we've mastered blogging. I mean, we are not Seth Godin by any stretch.
No.
We are not Leo Babauta. But for what we have, been able to do for ourselves with the particular skills that we have, I feel like, we have mastered not as much as we've been able to, but, I couldn't imagine how much more we can master it from here.
Right. And so it was like, how do we challenge ourselves in a different way? And that meant longer form and moving on to books or going out and doing public speaking, which was terrifying at first. And now here's a weird thing. I was just thinking about this morning. I was walking over to Matt's house and I realized that I get more anxiety about coming into the in-studio episodes than I do live events now, because we've done fewer of these over the past 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
So going to a live event in front of 1,000 people in a theater is less anxiety producing than just coming over here to record this.
I feel the same way. I know why it is for me.
It's the mastery thing, though. It's like oh, you've been doing this, and the first time I remember the first time you gave a speech in front of a large crowd of people when we were in New York City.
Why are you bringing that up? That was my worst, dude. That was the worst talk ever, man. I forgot half the talk. Everyone who was important. There has never been an event where we had that many important people there.
Like all the press,
the press,
was there.
every single. Oh my god,
it was
dude.
2013, and there was a talk that you had to give. My part was easy. I was just reading from the new book we had coming out.
I remember when I just went blank. And I looked at you and I'm like, help. And you just looked at me like, I don't know what you want me to do right now, dude.
The funny thing is now, after doing literally hundreds of speaking gigs and tour stops, you could look at me now and we could totally bail each other out now.
Yeah. Because
that dynamic, it's that mastery thing that you're talking about. But going to that first one, you're going to choke. But that's part of that's where the fear and excitement comes in, is you're getting better and better and better until where you get to a point where you start to plateau. And then you can move on to the next thing. And so maybe the thing right now with the workaholism, workaholism, is that, Ryan, I want you to not celebrate the crazy type A 100-hour-a-week lifestyle, but I also don't want you to demonize it.
Right.
That's where I was trying to go with that earlier discussion. I want you to find meaning in your work, and so the problem isn't the work. The problem is finding the appropriate amount of meaning in our work and growth and the ability to contribute to other people through that work.
He did say that he said if I work less than 48 hours.
No. He said if I stop working for more than 48 hours, I feel the itch to go back.
Oh, that's what it was. Oh, okay. I thought he had a number on it. But to your point, I was just saying find that number, whatever that number is. And what I was getting at, let's say the number is 48 hours, just going with that number. There isn't a wrong number there, meaning, Josh, you and I, we talk a lot about, we work 60, 70, sometimes 80-hour work weeks. Mm-hmm. It was miserable. It was too much work.
Sure.
But there are weeks now where we might put in 60 hours.
Yeah, or more. I mean, when we were...
Sure.
And also... I think the reason that's more palatable for me is I see the light at the end of the tunnel. There is an objective there,
and it's not sustainable to do that every single week. Like it's a temporary thing. Like we know it's a temporary thing.
That's true, and so we know it's temporary because we see that light at the end of the tunnel,
right? And
we know it's not a train. It's like this outcome, right? And so for us, and sometimes we overstretch it. I mean, I just wrote that whole long apology essay about the need to say no. Sometimes you overstretch it, and so if you're a workaholic, I just say find more meaning in the work you love doing them, and right now it's a liability, right? Being a workaholic. turn that into an asset. Like, you want to work really hard, work hard on the right things, and you'll feel great about it.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, just sticking with that example of like he has mastered this work. Find something else to master. So that doesn't mean you have to leave your job, but figure out how many hours you want to work in a week. Schedule your work around that. And what else can you do with the time that you freed up? So maybe it's yoga. Like, I don't know if Ryan's into yoga or not. Oh yeah, that's right.
With Dad.
Yeah, right. So yes, so pick one of those things, just one. That's right. I forgot he totally did give us examples. Yeah. So just pick one of those things. So let's say it is hiking. Great.
I think
Find
you can do all
3
three of those at the same time. Craft beer with Dad while they're running on hiking trails.
You just like put craft beer in a camel pack. You're a genius.
He's a workaholic. I mean, he's a type A guy.
That's
Come
right.
on,
That's
get
right.
it done.
But but also I will say, don't pressure yourself to do all of it at once. Just pick the thing that you feel like you're going to enjoy the most mastering, and start. If you can give it an hour a week, great. I had someone. You remember the person at the live event who was talking about how they wanted to contribute more, but they had only like an hour a week. Yeah. And I was like, well, they contribute an hour a week. Like, that's better than nothing.
Right.
And we trick ourselves saying, well, if I can do only an hour, I might as well do nothing. And
if I can't do 10 hours,
attitude.
I'm going to do 0.
Right. It makes no sense.
It's not binary.
Right.
It is, there's this whole spectrum of contribution or work or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes there are seasons. You'll have to work more. You'll have to work less. Hopefully that work is meaningful for you, and you make time, schedule time for those outside of work activities, your other values, let's call them. I'd love to send Ryan a copy of our book, Everything That Remains. It really is the story of our transition from some fairly banal work, right?
I already have that book, Josh.
No, other Ryan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
From Connecticut.
Did you read it?
Yes.
It's on my to-do shelf.
It's on my to-do list, yeah.
It's on my someday list. It's this transition. We worked in the corporate world for a dozen years. This fairly banal work and transitioning into much more meaningful work. There's 12 chapters in there about this journey from the suit and tie corporate guys to becoming the minimalist. Ryan, I think you'll find some value in that book. Sean, if you can reach out to him, give him the audiobook version or the book version or the ebook version, whatever he wants. All right, we'd love to hear what y'all have to say. So if you have a comment or a tip about the new year, including advice for any of our callers today, then leave us a voicemail, 406-219-7839. You can also email a voice memo right from your phone to podcast@theminimalists.com. It's my favorite part of the show. We air our favorite comments and tips at the end of the show. All right, Ryan, what time is it?
It's time for our lightning round, where we answer questions from social media.
Indeed, we are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Minimalists. During the lightning round, this is where Ryan and I do our best to answer each question with just a short, shareable, less than 140 character response.
Wait, we got 280 now.
No. Well, let's try to keep it to 140 if we
Whatever,
can.
minimalist. You're always trying to one-up me.
But I suppose we could do it in 280 if we really want to.
All right.
We also put the text to these minimal maxims in the show notes, so you can copy and share our pithy answers on social media if you'd like. And you can now find all of our quotes in one place over at minimalmaxims.com.
Sometimes I just go to that website and just read all of my own pithy answers.
You know what's funny?
And I'm like, Ryan, you're so smart and pithy.
I just imagine you like looking in the mirror and it says pithy and lipstick. No, and the funniest thing is I will see people tweet us occasionally. Give me a piffy answer, Piffy. I'm like,
Piffy?
I'm like, what's a piffy answer?
That's my favorite peanut butter.
It's off brand.
Piffy.
We did grow up poor, man. Give me those piffy sandwiches.
Give you some of the piffy.
The funny thing is, like, I'll go back and look at some of these. I know you're joking about going back and look at minimalmaxims.com and looking at it, but Jessica, the gal who manages the pithy answers, she does a really good job of like tweezing out something that we say that is profound amongst a sea of nonsense.
Yes, and then she edits it for us.
Yeah, and it looks like, wow, that is like some sort of Zen koan or something. Anyway, Ryan.
All right, our first lightning round question is from Virginia. Virginia writes in, how do you inspire yourselves to keep in your minimalist way year after year?
Well, I'll give you my pithy answer, and I'll try to unpack it a little bit. We needn't wait for the new year to find a resolution. And so now is the time that everyone is clamoring for a resolution. But and of course, what is it? 90% of resolutions are done by February. Like people have just given up. And it's because we put these lofty goals, objectives, this picture of ourselves. And sometimes that can be helpful, but sometimes that can be stifling. Yeah. And that can prevent us from taking action because we have this affinity for perfectionism. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, in order for my life to be perfect this year, I have to accomplish all of this. And then it's that thing we were just talking about a moment ago. So it's all or nothing. And so I'm either going to be on this perfect fast mimicking keto diet, or I'm going to eat 17 ice cream sandwiches right before bed.
Ice cream sandwiches.
There's Chris D'Elia, one of our favorite comics, but certainly one of my favorite comics.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
He has this whole bit on his podcast. You should find the video. Sean, if you can put a link. Actually, no, you can't put a link. It's totally inappropriate to put into our show notes. But if someone searches it on YouTube, he has this whole thing about portion sizes and eating a bunch of ice cream sandwiches. But yeah, so don't wait for the new year to find a resolution. And also, your resolutions don't have to be gigantic. They can be one day at a time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Here's my pithy answer. Minimalism isn't inspiring. Living a meaningful life is. And that's I guess really that's kind of all I'm trying to say. I mean, to unpack it, I guess I would just say that it's not about looking at minimalism and getting excited about minimalism, getting excited about decluttering. Sure, those things can certainly be exciting in the beginning, but ultimately minimalism isn't exciting. It is a tool that I use to help me live a meaningful life. Living a meaningful life, that is what is exciting, and ultimately that is what gives me the leverage. That is what inspires me to continue living this lifestyle.
The word used there is tool. Like, I went to go buy drill bits the other day because I'm doing a frontal lobotomy on Ella.
What?
It's fine. I read about it in this old
frontal. You know the what's the opposite of frontal? That's the way you do it, Josh. You got to go through the back.
Oh, oops! I thought that was the frontal lobe. You did the lobotomy. Well,
you got to go through the back of the lobe.
She's still healing, so we'll see how that goes. No, but here's the thing. I bought these tools, and like, I can understand. Like, I know some guys who like really are into their. I mean, we've talked to plenty of them. I'm really into my tool collection. But if it's just a tool collection for the sake of being a collection, then you're hoarding junk, right? And so you could do the same thing with minimalism, where you fetishize the act of letting go without using it as a tool. Like, I really like this hammer, I really like this drill, I really like this chainsaw. And the question is, how are you going to use that? Right. Well, hopefully you use it to live a more meaningful life, and that's what is inspiring.
Absolutely. Our next question is from Nick. How do you handle taking a leap of faith into something creative in a new year when you have no idea where it's going to go or how viable it is?
So the pithy answer that I have, and then hopefully I'll be able to break this down here, the direction is more powerful than the destination. So I also wrote down this quote from one of my favorite guys on Twitter. His name's TK Coleman. He said, "Dreams don't come true, decisions do."
Oh, amen. That's good, man.
And so it's really about making a decision. And so how do you handle taking a leap of faith? You have to make the decision to actually do it. You have to make the damn decision, as opposed to just dreaming about whatever it is that you want to accomplish. Whether it's in the new year or the new month or this week or today, the decisions are what's going to make your dream come true, not just the dream itself. And so the only other thing I'll ask for Nick or anyone else who is struggling with this is, how do you think something great happens? It's always one day at a time. If you write a book, it's one word at a time. It's one page at a time. It's one small step at a time. It's not just always that gigantic leap. It may seem like a leap in retrospect. You wrote this book. You went on this tour. You finished this art project. You opened a yoga studio. You got a new job as a cashier at the grocery store down the street. it may seem like a giant leap, but there are a bunch of steps that got you there in time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My pithy answer is this, Nick. An entrepreneur's first step requires bravery. And then I got a little parenthetical here in a little stupidity.
Yeah, it's like being willing to be stupid almost, right? I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how they gave these 4 groups of people, a group of lawyers, a group of CEOs, a group of kindergartners, and a group of recent business MBA graduates, right? So they just graduated with their business degree. They gave them like 27 pieces of, I don't know the exact numbers here, but I think it was 27 pieces of string spaghetti hardened, and 1 marshmallow, a yard of yarn.
Okay.
And with those, they had to build the tallest structure possible.
Okay.
And the group that won were the kindergartners.
Get out.
Second was the CEOs, because they have real life experience.
Oh, wow.
And third were the lawyers. Fourth were the recent business MBA graduates, because they became so analytical in what they were doing, and they're afraid of being judged. The kindergartners like, just try this, now try this, now try this. It doesn't matter the judgment. Just try, keep trying, keep trying, keep trying. It's that little bit of stupidity you're talking about there. You're going to build the tallest structure if you're willing to be wrong from time to time.
Yeah, I love that, man. But no, it is absolutely the hardest part, I think, for any entrepreneur. I mean, when I think about the steps that we've taken, whether it was starting the website, whether it was publishing a book, whether it was saying yes to the documentary, I mean, every single time, man, it's like we have an idea of how we want something to be. We plan ahead as much as possible.
Right.
But ultimately, like taking those first steps and getting it going without knowing how the end result is going to be is certainly the hardest part.
Yeah, and also so maybe it's not even stupidity. It's sometimes just ignorance. Like,
right.
Had I known how many minimalist bloggers there were out in the world in 2010 when we started it, like I knew of 4, right? Mm-hmm. And then of course there were dozens, if not hundreds of others. And now when you think of minimalism and blogging, you're going to think of us and a couple other people, basically. Right. And that's because had I known there were 1,000 other people blogging about minimalism, I would have just given up and been like, well, it's an oversaturated space, right? Mm-hmm. Well, what do I have that's unique? I would start beating myself up instead of being the kindergartner and saying, hey, let me build this thing really tall. Yeah. And we went into it as kindergartners. In fact, our friend Colin Wright talks about living a life as both a grad student and a kindergartner at the same time, approaching things with both attitudes. Like the grad student is going to get incremental growth and try to continue to further his or her education. Mm-hmm. The kindergartner is starting all over and learning everything brand new. Yeah. And that's the reason that he travels so much. Is he's like, I just want to absorb everything brand new. I want to pretend I'm a kindergartner when I move to a new country. And so I think you can do that. You can be the kindergartner of your own destiny. That's pithy-ish.
That is pithy-ish. That's good, man. No, it's funny. My mom, I've talked about how she wants to be a comedian, and she's done like a couple open mic nights.
Right.
And there was one night where she was like, oh, it was okay. Like I didn't get, it was actually, I think it was her first show. It was okay. I got a couple laughs. That was good. And I'm like, Mom, congratulations. Like, you took the hardest step, which was getting up in front of a crowd of people. And if you feel like you failed, that's great.
Yeah.
Like now you have that experience of failing.
Right.
And if you fail again, it's not going to be nearly as difficult the next time.
And those failures make you get better at what you're doing.
Yes. And I also, explained to her, like, even if you fail, if there's one person, even if you did get one laugh, if there's one person that you get a laugh out of, like that in its own is still a success.
Right.
And the next show we did, she just kind of got up there and rambled a little bit, and wasn't a whole lot of laughter.
Right.
But this girl came up to her afterwards and was like, "Thank you so much for getting," I mean, just like poured her heart out, like,
Oh, wow.
thanking my mom. And when we left, my mom looked at me and she was like, "Just one person, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, just one person, Mom."
Exactly.
And again, it wasn't the best set ever, but she got more experience from it and was still able to take away something from it.
Yeah, it was improving. Hey, can you think of any? Because I put you on blast with your New York incident. I already did.
Oh,
Can you think of any failures that within the last 7 years since starting the Minimalist that I've messed up on with respect to the Minimalist? Hold on to that for a second.
No, you're pretty perfect, Josh.
Yeah, well, thank you. So think about that for a second. We have a couple bonus overtime questions for our Patreon supporters. We do something each week called the Minimalists Private Podcast, and so we're gonna answer these two questions when we get over to that overtime podcast. Lisa asks, with a big change coming up, we're expecting a newborn. How do I keep my minimalist philosophy strong amidst the chaos of change? And then Suzu asks, how do we inspire our family members to join us on the road to shedding old stuff, including old detrimental habits, without them thinking it's just a fad? I also don't want them to feel like they would be giving up too much. So we'll be answering both of those questions over on our Patreon feed this week. You can join us over there at theminimalists.com/support. We also do a bunch of other cool stuff for our Patreon supporters because this podcast is 100% advertisement free thanks to you. And so we do that private podcast. By the way, it shows up in your regular podcast feed. We're also going to be putting some of our live events from this past year in the Patreon feed exclusively for our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much for your support if you are a supporter.
Yep. All right. I did think before we move on to this bonus episode for our patrons, I did think of something. The biggest, it wasn't a failure because we learned a lot from it, but doing the documentary in movie theaters was like, that's one of the, it was just not the best decision we've ever made.
Yeah, I mean, in fact, it's
and
funny.
It's all hindsight. Like, we didn't know that going into it.
I think that's a really good point. We sat down with Dan Harris recently. We're out in New York. In fact, he's going to be on this podcast later this month.
He'll be our first guest, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, in studio guest.
Guest,
we're not going to interview him though, because we don't do interviews. Yeah. But we'll just sit down and have a conversation. Hopefully, if you have some questions for him, you can call us up, leave us a question, and we'll have Dan answer a few of those questions live on the air. But he sat down with us and he's working on some documentary and he's like, can you tell us lessons that you've learned? And it was almost like all things I wouldn't do again. Like, you learned so much about what to do from the stuff that you failed on. So you
were joking earlier about, hey, Ryan, tell Greta what not to do so she can, but that's exactly what we did with Dan, though. We literally did.
Yeah, here the best lessons I can give you are things that we wouldn't do again.
Right.
Could I have done it over? And yeah, our documentary was a huge success, and I'm doing that in air quotes, in theaters. Mm-hmm. It was the #1 independent documentary theatrical release opening of 2016, and that is an impressive stat by its own until you realize that the amount of effort that went into making that happen would have just been much better spent on getting it out in front of the public sooner. And it was nice that we had that sort of accolade, but you and I don't live for the accolades, and the validation of, well, I want to thank the Academy or whatever.
Right.
And the real validation comes from people getting value from the message. And if 50,000 people saw it in theaters, then it's millions and millions of people who have seen the documentary online. Wouldn't you have rather just had it come out online sooner? And especially with the amount of effort. And so you see that and you look at it, and it was a type of failure. Even in its success was a type of failure. And of course, all the other stuff we did, we submitted to, I just hate that word even, submit.
I know.
We submitted to 100 film festivals, most of which denied us.
Yeah.
All of the big ones said no, thank you. And then we got into some mid-level or small film festivals. And what that tells me is that, you know what? I wouldn't do that again. It wasn't worth the amount of work that went into that. It's honestly kind of a racket. They charge you $50 or $75 to submit to their film festival.
Yeah, dude. We spent a lot of money, and I mean, was there anything we could say that, oh, we're really glad we're really glad our film showed at this one particular film festival because that created this relationship with, I mean, I can't even think of anything.
No, not at all, man. Now, it's not to say that it wasn't worth trying. It was worth trying.
We got some laurels.
Yeah, we did.
That was about it.
Yeah, she was really nice.
Oh, good grief. I said laurels.
Oh, yeah, they were really nice.
They were really nice.
Okay, now it's time for our added value portion of the show. This is where we each recommend or actually just talk about something that has added value to our lives recently. Ryan?
Man, so I used to wear American Apparel shirts. They went out of business. You can still buy them in bulk, but they don't fit me right anymore. I don't know what happened. So, I went to a place called Son of a Tailor, and it's unbelievable, dude. There are like, I have never recommended a black t-shirt until today.
And use promo code Nicodemus.
No, there's no promo code. I wish, because they're kind of expensive. And that's actually the thing. They are expensive. So when I say expensive, if you order 2 t-shirts, you're going to probably pay like $50 a piece, maybe $60 a piece. But here's the thing is like you send in your measurements and they tailor a t-shirt specifically for you, and
which is what you need because your biceps are so big.
That's right, exactly.
I have this picture of you with my mom, like
rubbing lotion on me.
No, that's a different picture, right? Let's not talk about that one.
True story.
My mom's like wearing like a turban or something on her head, and because she was going through chemo and stuff, and. You had one arm around her, like, you know, the side hug for a photo, and you were wearing
What?
You took the
what?
Speaking of organizing, you flew down to Florida to visit me and my mom. Remember, this is 2009.
Yes.
And you forgot to pack any t-shirts.
I do remember that.
And so you went to
dude, I was just in like emergency mode, man.
You went to this surf shop and you just bought like all the graphic tees they had. And so I've got this picture of you with your arm around my mom and your short corporate haircut, and you look kind of buff, and like you have on the shirt it has weapons of mass destruction, and it just has arrows pointing to my biceps. Yeah. Yes. And I have this other one. You fell asleep on a couch at a coffee shop down there.
Yeah.
And you're wearing you're wearing this shirt that with a camel on it. It just says "wanna hump."
Oh man, those were the times.
Oh, the B-27 again.
So son of a tailor. It is It is the more like basically if you buy 10 t-shirts then you pay way less because like if they're gonna make more for you they're gonna charge you less. So I always feel bad when I like recommend something that costs a little bit of money, although this isn't like, you know, the end of the world, but it's such a good thing. It's like if you can afford it, you don't have to put it on a credit card. It's totally worth it.
Yeah, I agree. Or if you can find a shirt that fits you well without going through that. I got the shirt I'm wearing right now on eBay.
Yeah.
That's another option. So there are plenty of options out there.
You know what my problem is I have such a weird body shape.
Yeah, you've super broad shoulders.
Super broad shoulders, big chest. It's like it's a very odd
Ryan hasn't found
shape.
a weight that he can't lift.
That's right. I just lift all the weights.
Anyway, my added value is there's an album I've been playing out, and I don't think it's a good thing, but Ella sings along to it quite a bit. It's the new album from Belly called Mumble Rap.
She sings along to Belly?
Yeah, don't tell Bex.
Oh my God.
No, I'm just kidding. Bex is Bex is playing it in the car, and that's the reason that Ella knows. Some of the songs. Anyway, one of my favorite albums of the year. I will put a link to it in the show notes. Belly. It's called Mumble Rap, although it's not mumble rap at all. It's in fact it's the opposite of whatever the.
No,
the
it's
current.
like making. It's like I'm assuming it's probably like making it's satire, like the.
Yeah, the title itself is like, hey, this is the climate we're in, so I'm just gonna call it this, and it's obviously not mumble rap.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great album, really well produced. One of my favorite albums of the year. All right, let's move on to right here, right now. This is where we talk about what's going on in the lives of the Minimalists. Speaking of favorite albums of the year, if you head on over to theminimalists.com/sound. Each year I put out a list of my favorite 10, 12, 8, whatever the list is, albums of 2017. Ryan, did you have any favorite albums that really stood out to you?
Oh, man.
I think I know your favorite, and it's in my top 5. I'm fairly certain.
Man, I'm like drawing a blank right now because there's so many. There was Andrew Bell's, which was great.
That's number 2 on my list.
The Killers, I love that new album.
That's an honorable mention on my list.
The Canyon City album is great.
That is number 1 on my list.
The what else? I like Jay-Z's album that came out.
That's number 8 on my list. Jay-Z.
Eminem's new album just came out. It's actually grown on me a little bit.
It's honorable mention for me.
It's unbelievable. Like when I listened to Eminem's that whole album through, I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I'm like, this is just like, I understand he's having fun. He's doing what he loves. But I was thinking, like, if I was an artist at that point, I would just produce stuff. I would never like promote it. Like I would just put it online. Like
I wanted the 444 of Eminem.
Yeah,
because Jay-Z made what I think is Jay-Z's best or second best album. In 444. It's his most mature for sure.
Yeah, I was expecting the same thing. But what I will say is that listening to it a couple times, it actually is. It does go. I feel like it does dive pretty deep.
Yeah, he has a song called "Bad Husband" on there that is, I mean, about how he really. I mean, it's the opposite of how he used to. He used to kill his ex-wife in songs.
Right.
2 decades ago or whatever it was.
Right.
But now he's like
2 decades ago. It's so funny. Dude.
Yeah, but now he's admitting to like being a bad husband, and
right.
and it's also this sort of cultural critique of, well, yeah. We often are bad husbands with good fathers, and we say that that's a good thing, but no, that doesn't abdicate us for the mistakes and bad decisions that we made during our marriage if we weren't there for our partner.
So what did you think my number 1 album was?
Khalid.
Oh,
which is number 5 on my list. American Teen.
I did not even realize that was this year. I thought that was the end of last year.
Nope, that was toward the beginning of this year. Definitely one of my favorite albums. So you can check out my whole list, top 10 this year. You can find all my past year's lists since I've been doing this, I think since 2011, and a bunch of honorable mentions this year as well. Honestly, Ryan, I think 2017 was the best year for music in
a long time.
Yeah, in at least since 2013, but maybe even farther back from me. It was a great year for music. So you can check that out. That's going on in the lives of the Minimalists. What else we got going on here, Ryan?
I don't know, man. But you're right though. Khalid would be my favorite album.
Yeah, I knew because like you were playing that album hard when it first came out. Man.
I still listen to it, dude. It's so good.
So since we've been back in studio, since we're back in studio now, we've been on the road. There are a bunch of new essays over at theminimalists.com. So while you're over there checking out that list of my favorite albums, you can find a bunch of new writings from the Minimalists. You can find that essay I did about the apology and the need to say no. It's called An Apology and the Need to Say No. Basically, just go over to theminimalists.com. You can scroll through all the archives over there. Another recent one was about Black Friday called Let's Talk About Black Friday. You had some thoughts about the holiday shopping season. You had a video that we made about the bag that we produced, the packed bag. You can check that out. It's everything that I pack whenever I'm on the road, whether it's a year or a month or a day. You can see everything that I pack for that. A couple of my favorite essays recently, there was one I wrote called Have to Get to, and it talks about waking up at 4:30 in the morning on a Thursday and the framing of that day. There was another essay called Redefining Better, where at a recent event, a tiny house enthusiast came up to me and asked me about the size of my house, and I told her it was
what would Freud say about that?
Right. Well, I'll just read the first paragraph from that essay. At a recent event, a tiny house enthusiast asked me about the size of my home. When I told her it's probably around 1,000 square feet, her response was, "You could do better." and then so I sort of asked myself that question throughout the essay. I said, really, could my family and I in fact do better? Depends what you mean by better. And then I go into like, how do we redefine what better means? Because smaller doesn't mean better. Less doesn't necessarily mean better. Fewer doesn't necessarily mean better. What does better mean? How do we redefine that? There's an essay on there called Las Vegas and Other Ways to Contribute. We talk about some of the ways that the minimalists have been able to contribute to charitable causes this year. We had a good question about conspicuous consumption that wrote a long essay on about that. What else do we have here? Oh, you can find all of our old podcasts on here as well. And then, there was one other one that was really good. There's the 3 free minimalist wallpapers. You can find those on there for your phone or your computer. Those are all free. And, a special kind of freedom. This was one of my favorite essays I've written in a while. So you can find that one there as well. So a bunch of those. And if you want all of those to show up in your inbox whenever we publish a new essay or the notes to the podcast, you can just sign up for our email list over at theminimalists.com. Of course, we'll never ever send you spam because that stuff's disgusting. Experiment. So it's January now. It's not when we're recording this. We're recording this like December 21st, but it's January now.
Yes.
And we are off social media for the month of January.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to learn a lot of lessons this month, taking a month off, and find a way to repurpose, reuse, refocus our efforts on social media in a way that isn't just posting everything in triplicate. Well, let's put that on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and put this picture there, an announcement here. No, we want to use these platforms effectively, differently.
We want to be more intentional.
Yeah, we want to be able to be communicative and expressive and let these be an extension of the minimalists without just being this broadcasting promo machine. And I talked about this in the apology essay that I wrote. I was like, man, I felt like I even saw it in my own work where it was I was becoming too promo heavy.
Well, I mean, we try to keep our audience informed,
right? And I think you can do that, and that's why like we do this right here, right now segment.
Well, the problem is like some people don't listen to the podcast. Some people don't look at social media. Some people don't look at the blog. So, I feel like we have to mention everything on every single platform. But to your point, though, it's become to our detriment.
Yeah, and so we have to be. I think what we're going to learn throughout part of this, and to what degree I'm not sure, we have to be okay with it's the fear of missing out. Like,
right.
Well, not everyone's going to hear about it. No, of course not.
Nope.
99% of the world doesn't know who the minimalists are, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
There are a lot of people without an internet connection who are never going to hear about us,
right.
And that's okay. And so we're not going to beat you over the head with stuff. We'll do a segment like right here, right now, where we can talk about what's going on in our lives. We can talk about if we have an event or something going on, but we're not going to beat you over the head with the stuff we have going on. So we're going to learn a lesson. We'll probably post an essay. Almost certainly we'll write an essay about what the non-social media experience brought about. What did it birth in terms of how we're going to use social media differently starting in February. So stay tuned for that and be on our email list, and you'll be the first to read that. Also, we're headed to, I already mentioned this, we're headed to Australia in March. You can get your tickets over at theminimalists.com. We have 2 more stops in the United States. One is in Vegas. So we ended the Less Is Now tour last year.
I'm like trying to rack my brain for the second stop.
Well, we'll get there. So we ended the Less Is Now tour for 2017 in Milwaukee this year, and man, it was great. So we did 42 cities last year.
We almost had to reschedule that, man.
Yeah,
that was so close.
It was the very, very end.
My goodness,
we made it happen.
Yeah.
But so we have a charity event in Las Vegas because of there was a tragedy that happened there, and we're donating 100% of the profits from that to the Las Vegas Victims Fund. Our friend Matt Diavella is going to be there with us from the Ground Up show. He'll be answering questions on stage with us. And then in February, we're going to be in Los Angeles. We're filming 2 events. Ryan has the most puzzled.
I'm like, do we take on a speaking engagement? I'm not aware of. Yeah, dude,
No.
I totally forgot about the.
So the Minimalists
filming.
are filming a new documentary, and it's a follow up to our Netflix documentary, Minimalism, a documentary about the important things. And we're filming a new documentary. It's called The Minimalists, Less Is Now. And so Ryan, you and I have presented this Less Is Now tour talk in front of dozens of audiences throughout 2017, and we're finally going to capture it on film. We did so on a few stages. Matt helped us out with that, but it wasn't the aesthetic we were looking for, so we're going to capture it in this beautiful warehouse space in Los Angeles. You can find a picture of that space over on our website. It's theminimalists.com/warehouse. And we're inviting some folks to attend. We're actually doing 2 tapings. It's a 3 p.m. taping and a 7 p.m. taping. We just added. So the 3 p.m. taping sold out in a few hours. And there are still a few tickets left for the 7 p.m. taping. By the time this comes out, my guess is there might be a few left. Totally up to you if you want to participate in that. Just real quick, the new film that we're working on, it's going to combine that in-depth talk that we give about minimalism with some sort of documentary-style footage of our personal lives, our journeys, and our backstories. I think it's where minimalism, sort of the documentary Minimalism, scratched the surface of our journeys. This new film is going to really dig deep into the events that led us towards simplifying our own lives. So if you want to be part of the audience, it's February 10th, 2018. It's in Los Angeles at Electric Pony Studios. You have to get your tickets in advance. It's an all-ages event. It's about 90 minutes. It's our talk that we've given this last year. Seats are limited to the first 300 people. So you just go to theminimalists.com and click on the tour page there. You can find the times and dates. We hope to see you out there. We're really looking forward to getting that on film.
That is going to be awesome.
A couple other things here. If you go to theminimalists.com/simple year, it is a new year. Our friend Courtney Carver, who just had a new book come out called Soulful Simplicity. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. But she also has this year-long course that we've participated in a few times, and it is open up once again. It's called A Simple Year during the month of January. It's a year-long, 12 months of guided simplicity. Just go to theminimalists.com/simple year if you want some. I don't think you need a course to simplify your life, but if you need a little help, a little guidance, there's 12 different experts that guide you through the entire year each month.
Yeah, I mean it's a great accountability tool if you're looking for an accountability partner.
Yeah, exactly. And people to not hold your hand. Well, sometimes it's holding your hand through it. Sometimes they'll push you. They'll drag you kicking and screaming to simplicity. Not really, but they will help you along the way. 12 different experts on 12 different topics. So it's tackling one topic per month. So that could be decluttering. It can be holiday shopping, gift giving. That's the one that Ryan and I really dive deep on. That's our month. And then it could be travel. It could be minimalist family. And there are all of these different topics that you can dive into. All the information over at theminimalists.com/simple year. And speaking of resetting your year, my partner Rebecca has a new course. It's a 23-day reset, and it is over at minimalwellness.com, and I think there's only 30 seats available to that, so I don't know if there's any left, but if there are, you can find that. She's also doing an automated version of that where you don't have to meet with her if you just want to take the course online. All right, that's about it. Right now, we just have additional bonus this week on Patreon. For our Patreon supporters, we're going to post our Tampa event over there. And so we answered a bunch of questions at that Tampa event. Because we're back in studio now, we're going to be doing a lot more studio episodes throughout this year. We're going to take some of those live events and put them exclusively in our Patreon feed over in the Minimalists private podcast, which will show up in your regular podcast app, whatever you're listening to this on now. You just need that private link. So some of the questions we answer at that Tampa event: if I'm upside down on the mortgage on my house, should I pay more on it now, or should I put the money in the bank and pay on requisite repairs right before I sell it? You know, it's interesting, Ryan. Like, I'd be interested to see how we answer these questions now versus live, because sometimes that adrenaline really helps you give this great, beautiful answer. I'm like, how did Ryan just pull that answer right out of the thin air and give it, and then you answer it now, and I can have notes or whatever in front of me. My guess is the answers would be different, because sometimes I go back and listen to those live events, and it's like, man, I had the perfect answer 4 hours after the event.
Right.
When I was laying awake in
how
bed.
It always works.
Yeah, it seems to be. But then there's sometimes that adrenaline gives me the best possible answer. I'm like, oh my God, how did I have that answer?
Yeah.
Some other questions we answer on that live Tampa podcast is going to come out this Friday, by the way, on that Patreon feed. If I don't receive support from my loved ones when I adopt new empowering habits and practices, what should I do? How do I address my partner's hoarding tendencies? How do I get everyone on board with minimalism in a multi-generational household? And how can I become more conscientious regarding my consumption of media, especially the media on the internet? So those are some of the questions we answer on this Friday's live episode. Also, we had our friends Brother Cephas, who were on my top 10 list. They opened up for us, and they played a song on that podcast as well. All right, Ryan, anything else in the right here, right now? Anything else going on in your life you want to talk about?
Yeah, man, I got some voicemail comments and tips from our listeners.
Hey, this is Elliot from Minneapolis. I just wanted to make a comment about this recent Christmas and holiday season. You know, I was really worried about all the stuff and everything that comes with it. And I kind of took a look at everything that was in my room and everything that I didn't need or didn't want and that didn't add value to my life. And so I decided that I would donate it to this charity cause for my school. And that was honestly one of the most fulfilling gifts I think I got and I think that I could give. So I just wanted to make a comment saying, you know, if you have all this stuff and you're worried about, you know, stuff for Christmas, one thing that I did was I took a look at everything that I had already and I put stuff that doesn't add value to my life in a bag and I donated to a cause that might add value to some others. I don't know if this comment has been said already, but that's all I wanted to say.
Hi, this is Kira. I'm a student at UCSB, and I am a big fan of the Minimalists, your guys' messages, and everything for the most part, but there's one thing that I think is important to kind of make clear from my own experiences around health and nutrition and diet and what that all means. So I personally am right now recovering from an eating disorder. And it was confusing for me, I think, to listen to you guys and to about Leah Babaudo's story that like minimalism and all this positive radical life change went along with weight loss. But I actually needed to gain weight and exercise less. And that seemed counterintuitive. And just like how minimalism is like a middle way, minimalism is not about deprivation. You guys say that a lot. I think that health and exercise should be the same thing. So you don't necessarily have to just prescribe to a single diet. It's really about finding balance, and same with exercise. It should all come from a place of loving your body rather than what you should do, because it does feel good to exercise and eat well, but everything in moderation. And so for me personally, exercise and diet became anchors and restrictive behaviors that were kind of prohibiting me from social interactions and other positive things. And so for me, removing those anchors and focusing on what's positive in my life meant gaining weight, and that was a healthy thing for me.
Hi, this is Lauren. I live in New Orleans. Forgive me if this tip has been used in one form or another on your podcast. I just started listening this year and haven't completely caught up on all of the episodes. But I was cleaning out my clothes closet and dresser this morning and wanted to share my tip for keeping a minimalist wardrobe. So in my dresser and my closet, I have stacks of items: underwear, socks, shirts, shorts, jeans, etc. All of my different clothing items are in stacks. When I do laundry, I put the clean items at the bottom of each stack, so the items that I haven't worn most recently end up at the top of the stack. And I try to choose items to wear from the top each day. That way, if I find myself not willing to wear something that's on the top of the stack because I don't like it anymore or it doesn't fit anymore, then I know it's probably time to get rid of it. I also do this with my hanging clothes. I will put the laundered items on the right side and try to choose items to wear from the left side, so they're also constantly rotating. Consequently, I only had a small bag of items to get rid of during today's purge because I wear most of the items that I own.
All right, y'all. That's it for this episode. If you have a question for the Minimalists, give us a call, 406-219-7839. You can also email a voice memo right from your phone to podcast@theminimalists.com. And if you leave here with just one message, we hope it's this: love people and use things, because the opposite never works. Thanks for listening, y'all.
We'll see you next time.
Every little thing you think that you need, every little thing you think that you need, every little thing that's just feeding your greed. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it. Every little thing that you gotta have, every little thing that you gotta have, you gotta reach for, and you gotta grab. Oh, I bet that you'd be fine without it. So tear your